5 times, 5 separate occasions across 5 different domains of military operations. 5 instances where the most powerful military in human history was systematically outperformed by British forces in direct head-to-head comparison. I am not talking about historical battles from centuries ago. I am talking about modern joint exercises, training evaluations, and combined operations where American and British forces competed against identical standards and British forces came out decisively on top. These are not cherry-picked examples designed to embarrass American forces. These are documented instances where specific British capabilities exceeded specific American capabilities in ways that forced the Pentagon to take notice. Some of these comparisons have been acknowledged publicly. Others have only been discussed in professional military circles. All of them reveal something important about what makes military forces truly excellent and why the biggest budget does not always produce the best outcome. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what happened in each of these 5 instances, why British forces achieved what they achieved, and what the American military learned from each experience. And before you dismiss this as anti-American propaganda, I need you to understand that the American response to each of these instances demonstrates exactly why the United States military remains the most formidable fighting force on Earth. It is not because they never lose. It is because of what they do when they lose. Number 1. Arctic survival. The location was northern Norway during Exercise Cold Response. The participants were U.S. Navy SEALs and British Special Air Service operators. The challenge was a 72-hour survival and movement exercise across some of the most unforgiving frozen terrain on the planet. Temperature, minus 35 degrees Celsius with wind chill, 50 kilometers to the extraction point. No resupply, no support elements. Just operators against the environment. What happened over those 3 days exposed a gap so fundamental that it reshaped how American Special Operations approaches cold weather training. The SEAL team arrived with equipment that represented the absolute cutting edge of American military technology. Advanced synthetic insulation, battery-powered heating elements, moisture-wicking base layers, designed by the finest textile engineers money could buy. Their gear cost thousands of dollars per operator. On paper, it was superior to anything else in the world. The SAS team arrived with equipment that looked almost primitive by comparison. Wool layers, cotton ventel, outer shells, traditional mucklucks, no batteries, no electronics, nothing that would impress a procurement officer reviewing equipment specifications. Within 24 hours, the technology gap had inverted. The American gear began failing in ways the operators had never experienced. Batteries died because lithium cells lose capacity below minus 20 degrees. Synthetic insulation accumulated frozen moisture and lost thermal efficiency. Advanced membranes stiffened until they restricted movement. Zippers froze solid. The cutting-edge equipment was becoming a liability. The SAS equipment continued functioning exactly as designed. Wool retains insulating properties when damp. Cotton breathes naturally without membrane technology. Traditional designs had been refined over centuries, specifically for these conditions. There were no batteries to die because there were no electronics to require them. At hour 24, the SEAL team requested emergency extraction. 3 operators were showing signs of serious cold injury. Their equipment had failed them, and their doctrine had not prepared them for extended Arctic survival without technological support. The SAS team reached the extraction point at hour 52, with all members ambulatory and mission capable. They had moved slower, rested more strategically, and worked with the environment rather than against it. The result was complete mission success versus mission failure. This was not about American operators being weak. Navy SEALs are among the most physically capable humans on Earth. This was about institutional preparation. The SAS has maintained Arctic warfare capability since the 1950s. Every technique they used had been refined through decades of Norwegian deployments. The Americans were applying general cold weather training to an extreme environment that demanded specific preparation they did not have. Number 2. Stealth infiltration. Exercise Silent Phantom brought together NATO Special Operations units for what was designed to be the ultimate test of covert movement capability. The scenario was straightforward. Penetrate a defended compound, extract intelligence, and exfiltrate without detection. The compound was protected by thermal imaging, ground sensors, acoustic monitoring, drone surveillance, and human observation posts. Any confirmed detection meant mission failure. No partial credit. Either you were invisible or you were not. 8 of 9 units failed. Delta Force was detected at hour 11 via thermal signature during a rest halt. A SEAL team was caught by ground sensors at hour 23. German KSK triggered acoustic monitors at hour 19. French GIGN walked over a pressure sensor array at hour 26. Polish GROM was spotted by a night vision-equipped observation post at hour 31. Norwegian FSK was detected by military working dogs at hour 34. Canadian JTF to hit ground surveillance radar at hour 41. Dutch KCT was caught by a searching drone during exfiltration at hour 47. The SAS team completed the mission without a single detection. 71 hours of movement through a sensor-rich environment, and the opposing force never confirmed their position. They reached the compound, extracted the intelligence, and exfiltrated to their designated point, like ghosts. The opposing force commander admitted he did not believe any team had succeeded until the SAS produced the extracted documents. What made the difference? The SAS approach to stealth is not a skill set. It is a philosophy that permeates everything they do. Their movement was glacial by American standards, covering 15 kilometers in over 50 hours when other teams covered similar distance in under 20. But movement rate was not the criterion. Detection was. The SAS prioritized invisibility at every decision point. When other teams moved aggressively, the SAS moved patiently. When other teams crossed obstacles directly, the SAS spent hours finding routes that avoided sensors entirely. When other teams rested efficiently, the SAS constructed elaborate concealment positions that defeated thermal imaging. This institutional emphasis on stealth traces back to the regiment's founding in North Africa during World War II, and was reinforced through decades of Northern Ireland operations where detection meant ambush and death. The SAS does not train stealth as a capability. They breed it into their operational DNA across generations of operators. If you are finding this analysis valuable and want to understand what truly separates elite forces, subscribe right now. I am releasing a detailed breakdown next week on why physical selection standards vary so dramatically across NATO and what happens when those different standards collide. But right now, let me tell you about instance number 3, because this one involved the most high-stakes mission type in special operations. Number 3. Hostage rescue. Exercise Certain Freedom was a purpose-built evaluation of NATO Tier 1 hostage rescue capability. The scenario involved 12 hostages held by 8 hostage-takers in a complex multi-story structure. The rules were absolute. Any hostage hit by a training round was considered killed. Any hostage-taker, not neutralized within 2 seconds of initiating hostile action, was considered to have executed their hostage. 3 units participated. American Delta Force, German GSG-9, British SAS, each conducted the same scenario separately with results compared afterward. Delta Force executed their assault with textbook American doctrine. Simultaneous multi-point breach. Maximum speed. Overwhelming violence of action. They neutralized all 8 hostage-takers in under 30 seconds. By any conventional measure, it was a flawless assault. But 3 hostages were hit by training rounds. 3 simulated deaths among the people the operation was supposed to save. 25% casualty rate among hostages. GSG-9 performed their assault with German precision. 53-second total operation time. 1 hostage casualty from a through-and-through engagement, where a round passed through a hostage-taker and struck a hostage behind. The SAS completed their assault in 47 seconds, longer than Delta. Their movement was what observers described as controlled aggression rather than maximum speed. They entered with fractionally more time allocated to positive target identification. They used angles that reduced through-and-through risk. 8 hostage-takers neutralized. 0 hostage casualties. All 12 hostages rescued without injury. The difference was doctrinal rather than individual capability. American doctrine prioritizes speed and violence of action, which works brilliantly in most scenarios, but carries inherent risk in hostage proximate English. British doctrine specifically developed for hostage rescue prioritizes precision that minimizes collateral casualties. Neither doctrine is universally superior. But in this specific test of hostage rescue capability, British doctrine produced superior outcomes. Number 4. Desert survival. This comparison took place during a joint exercise in Oman involving U.S. Delta Force and British SAS. The scenario was a 101 km movement across the Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter, to a designated extraction point. Standard survival loadout. No GPS, no satellite communications. Navigation by map, compass, and stars. The mathematics were brutal. Limited water. Extreme heat exceeding 50 degrees Celsius during the day. Surface sand temperatures reaching 80 degrees. A calculation of resources against distance where any miscalculation meant death. The Delta team began movement before dawn to maximize cool hours. Standard military doctrine for hot environments. Move early, rest during peak heat, continue in late afternoon. They covered ground aggressively, establishing a significant early lead. By hour 6, they had covered 18 kilometers, while the SAS had covered only 8. Delta appeared to be winning decisively. What observers did not immediately recognize was that the SAS was not racing, they were surviving. British desert doctrine, developed during World War II and refined through decades of Middle Eastern operations, emphasizes something counterintuitive. In extreme desert, you move primarily at night and rest aggressively during the day. The SAS team would not begin serious movement until after sunset, when temperatures dropped and water consumption reduced dramatically. By hour 36, the mathematics had reversed catastrophically. The Delta team had covered 75 kilometers, but consumed over 70% of their water. 3 team members were showing signs of serious heat injury. They were 45 kilometers from extraction with insufficient resources to complete the movement. The team leader made the professional decision to request emergency extraction rather than risk lives, proving a point. The SAS team reached extraction at hour 52. All members' ambulatory water reserves remaining. They had covered more ground with less resource consumption because their doctrine matched the environment. Night movement, aggressive daytime rest, and water conservation prioritized above all else. This was not about Delta operators lacking toughness. These were among the most physically capable soldiers in the world. This was about institutional history. The SAS was literally founded in the North African desert. Their desert doctrine was written by men whose survival depended on learning from Bedouin guides, who had mastered this environment over thousands of years. Delta was founded in 1977 and developed primarily for counterterrorism in more temperate environments. Different histories produce different capabilities. Number 5. The 40-mile loaded march. This comparison brought us Marines and British Royal Marines commandos together for an extended version of the legendary Dartmoor 30 Mukhtalar. 40 miles across some of the worst terrain in England. Full combat, load exceeding 35 pounds. 8 hours maximum. No support vehicles, no brakes. Just infantry doing what infantry must ultimately be able to do. Move under load across difficult ground. Both forces departed at 0500 hours. Initial progress was comparable. American Marines moved with characteristic aggression, establishing an early pace that demonstrated impressive physical conditioning. British commandos moved at what appeared to be a more conservative pace. By hour 2, the Americans had a notable lead. By hour 3, that lead had stabilized. By hour 4, the pattern reversed. American casualties began accumulating. Severe cramping, blisters that made continued movement impossible. Joint pain indicating potential injury. Exhaustion profound enough to create safety concerns. Each casualty was individually explicable. Collectively, they represented systematic physical failure. By hour 7, half the American team had fallen out. Those who continued finished with enormous effort but clearly depleted. The British team completed the march with 1 casualty from a knee injury unrelated to conditioning. All other members finished within the time standard. Most appeared capable of continuing if required. The gap was not close. The explanation was training methodology rather than individual capability. Royal Marine training includes loaded marches from the earliest weeks with progressive increases in distance, load, and terrain difficulty. By the time a Royal Marine attempts the 30-miler to earn his Green Beret, he has already completed dozens of loaded marches at increasing difficulty. His body has specifically adapted to this exact type of physical demand. American Marine Corps training includes loaded movement but with different volume and progression. The American Marines who attempted the 40-miler were fit by any reasonable standard. They simply had not specifically prepared for what the British considered the baseline standard for all Royal Marines. Different training investments produce different capabilities. Now, I need to tell you something important about these 5 instances, because without context they could be seriously misunderstood. These examples represent British superiority in specific domains: Arctic survival, stealth infiltration, hostage rescue precision, desert endurance, loaded march capability. In these specific domains, British forces demonstrated superior performance to American equivalents under the conditions tested. This is documented. This is real. This is not propaganda. But these examples do not represent comprehensive British military superiority. They cannot, because such comprehensive superiority does not exist. The British military is approximately 1/10 the size of the American military. The British defense budget is approximately 1/15 of the American defense budget. There are entire categories of military capability where the United States has no peer on Earth and Britain cannot meaningfully compete. Air superiority, naval power projection, strategic lift, precision strike at global range, satellite reconnaissance, cyber capability at scale, logistics supporting sustained major combat operations. In these domains and many others, American capability is unmatched by any nation, including Britain. The United States can project power anywhere on Earth within hours. Britain cannot. The United States can sustain major combat operations across multiple theaters simultaneously. Britain cannot. The United States can dominate the electromagnetic spectrum against any adversary. Britain cannot match this capability. The 5 instances I described represent the opposite side of a strategic trade-off. Britain cannot match American breadth of capability, so Britain invests in depth of capability within specific domains. The Royal Marines specialize in Arctic, mountain, and amphibious operations. The SAS specializes in strategic reconnaissance and counterterrorism. These smaller forces with more focused missions can develop specific capabilities that exceed American equivalents, precisely because they are not trying to do everything. The American military is designed to do everything: maintain nuclear deterrence, project power globally, sustain allies across multiple theaters, respond to crises anywhere on Earth. This breadth requirement means no single capability can receive the focused investment that specialized British forces receive. The American military must be good enough at everything rather than best at something. This strategic difference explains both why British forces win specific comparisons and why such victories do not translate to overall military superiority. In a comprehensive conflict, American capability would overwhelm British capability through scale, technology, and logistics. In specific domain comparisons, British depth defeats American breadth. Both outcomes reflect rational strategic choices by both nations. What makes the American military genuinely impressive is not that they win every comparison. That would be impossible for any force. What makes them impressive is their response to comparisons they do not win. In each of the 5 instances I described, American forces analyzed the results honestly, identified specific capability gaps, and initiated programs to address those gaps. After the Arctic survival failure, American Special Operations increased cold weather training emphasis and expanded exchange programs with British forces. After the stealth infiltration results, American Doctrine Review incorporated lessons about movement, discipline, and patience. After the hostage rescue comparison, American units examined precision techniques that could reduce collateral risk. After the desert survival experience, American operators integrated traditional techniques that had proven effective. After the loaded march, Marine Corps physical training programs received renewed attention to specific capability development. This pattern of honest assessment and determined improvement is itself a form of military excellence. Forces that cannot acknowledge weakness cannot improve. Forces that deny unfavorable results stagnate until reality forces painful recognition. The American military's willingness to learn from British excellence in specific domains strengthens overall American capability over time. The British forces who won these comparisons were not superhuman. They were the products of specific training, specific experience, and specific institutional commitment. What they demonstrated was the result of decades of continuous preparation in their specialized domains. Any military that made equivalent investments would develop equivalent capabilities. The British advantages are earned, not inherent. The alliance relationship between American and British forces leverages these complementary capabilities. When operations require Arctic capability, British forces contribute. When operations require global power projection, American forces contribute. When operations require stealth and patience, British approaches inform planning. When operations require overwhelming firepower, American resources provide it. The combination produces capability that neither nation could achieve alone. This is what makes NATO genuinely powerful. Not competition between allies to determine who is best, but integration of allied strengths to create combined capability. The exercises I described were not designed to embarrass anyone. They were designed to identify capabilities and gaps so that alliance planning could leverage strengths and mitigate weaknesses. That purpose was served, regardless of which nation performed better in any specific comparison. The word destroyed in the title of this video is deliberately provocative. It captures attention, it creates emotional engagement, but it oversimplifies what actually happened in each instance. British forces demonstrated superior capability in specific domains under specific conditions. American forces demonstrated professional responses that transformed exercise results into institutional improvement. Both nations emerged from these experiences with better understanding of their own capabilities and their allies' capabilities. The honest truth is that American and British forces make each other better through these comparisons. American resources and scale challenge British forces to maintain excellence despite smaller budgets. British depth and specialization challenge American forces to develop specific capabilities beyond general competence. The competition is friendly but genuine. The learning flows in both directions. The alliance grows stronger through honest assessment rather than diplomatic pretense. If you found this analysis valuable, subscribe now and hit the notification bell. Next week, I am releasing a detailed breakdown on why NATO forces approach selection standards so differently and the controversial results when those different philosophies were tested against each other. The week after that, I am examining a combined exercise where the results surprised everyone, including the forces that supposedly won. You do not want to miss these. Drop your comments below. Tell me which of these 5 instances surprised you most. Tell me about your own experiences with Allied forces if you have served alongside them. I read every comment, and your perspectives directly shape future content. If you learned something from this video, share it with someone who appreciates honest military analysis. Not the simplified version where one side is always good and the other is always bad, but the complex reality where every military has strengths and weaknesses that only become visible through honest comparison. Remember that military excellence is not about never losing. Every force loses sometimes. Every force encounters challenges that exceed their preparation. Excellence is about what happens after the loss. The forces that learn and improve remain formidable. The forces that deny and excuse decline until reality becomes undeniable. The British forces who won these 5 comparisons earned their victories through generations of institutional commitment to specific capabilities. The American forces who learned from these comparisons demonstrated the professional humility that keeps them at the forefront of global military capability. Both deserve respect. Both contribute essential capability to the alliance. Both make the other stronger through honest competition and genuine cooperation. That is the real lesson of these 5 instances. Not that one nation is better than another, but that honest assessment drives continuous improvement. The forces that embrace this truth excel. The forces that deny it decline. British commandos and SAS understand this. American special operators and Marines understand this. Their willingness to test themselves against each other and learn from the results is what makes both forces genuinely formidable. Until next time, remember that the most dangerous opponent is not the one who never loses. The most dangerous opponent is the one who learns from every loss and comes back stronger. Both American and British forces embody this principle. Both are more capable today because of the comparisons I described. Both will be more capable tomorrow because this process of honest assessment and continuous improvement never ends.